and welcome back for episode 4 of our Have You Ever Seen podcast. The only podcast in Wolverhampton to ask, have you ever seen? I'm Rob, and I'll be your host today, and conveniently, being the only one of us not to have chosen thus far, I was picked by our glorious, non-biased, completely impartial spinner to have this week's choice. What are the chances? So, to quickly summarise, episode 1 saw Luke ask, have you ever seen Ghostbusters 2? Alex pulled the big bus out of his bag of tricks for episode 2. And last time out, Sam asked us if we had ever read an issue of Playduck. No. Sam asked us if we'd ever seen Howard the Duck. Speaking of, Sam, are you alright? You look a bit peaky.
I'm fine.
You sure, Sam?
I'm fine.
You've been coming out with a few weird things this morning.
I'm fine, just a bit cold.
Okay, alright.
Alex.
Don't get tense.
Keep an eye on Sam for the rest
Okay, I'll keep an eye on him.
Okay. So, on to this week, and because we're not all busy enough as it is with newborns or exams or jobs, I asked the guys if they'd ever seen The Thing. But not just one thing, all of the things. A retrospective, if you will. Starting off with Christian Nyby's The Thing from Another World from 1951, John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982, and finally the 2011 prequel, The Thing. So it's safe to say, guys, you've all had a busy week.
We have. I like how you didn't even try to pronounce the director's name from the third one.
Matthijs van Hegningen.
Oh,
That's the only time I'll attempt that.
Japanese names are your area of expertise.
Yeah,
that looks like you've swallowed a bunch of Scrabble letters and just spat them out.
Yeah, I'm not going to try that again.
I really appreciate it. Rob went to Japan, so we had a really short turnaround on these last few episodes. And you made us read a novel and watch 3 films in about a week. So.
It was intense, wasn't it?
Not only did I make you
do
do that, I didn't even read the novel myself.
Well, I hope I get chosen later because I'm going to make you watch all the Bond films before for the next episode.
Is it 51 now?
51 Bond films? Oh, it's like
24.
25.
I'm not the biggest, but I need to go back and watch them. I thought I'm still, isn't it Bond? It's 50 years old.
Yeah,
okay. I've seen the box that's saying Bond 50.
Yeah.
25 if you
Bond
include
lover.
Never Say Never.
We don't.
No,
We don't. 24.
What about Casino Royale, the original, David Niven?
26 if you include Casino Royale and Never Say Never.
We only count the Eon production
Yeah,
cells.
yeah.
I thought they were 50. I'm disappointed. I thought it was like a real year's worth of watching.
Okay.
So speaking of busy weeks, guys, other than the 3 Thing films and reading the novel, what else have you been watching?
Oh, I'll go first. I say this week, I've been watching it ever since episode 1 came on. I've been watching Star Trek Discovery over the last few weeks, season 2. I also watched season 1 when season 1 was on. And I've got to say, I'm not a Trekkie per se, but I am partial to a bit of Star Trek. And I'm really impressed with this new series on Netflix, Star Trek Discovery. It's sort of like kind of flips the concept a little bit because the main character's sort of like, it's not the captain of the ship. I mean, the captain of the ship has changed from series 1 to season 2, and it's just following this character called Michael Burnham, who plays Spock's sister, which I guess is kind of confusing because I don't think Spock's sister's ever been mentioned in any previous Star Trek stuff.
It's a man playing Spock's sister?
No, it's a woman.
Called Michael?
A woman called Michael. It's
Wow.
Sonequa Martin Green from The Walking Dead.
Okay.
She sort of like suicided herself, zombie suicided herself.
She's acted before.
Yeah. And then
I watched episode 1, it was good.
it was really good. And it
has Shatner in it.
It does not have Shatner in it. It's set 10 years before.
Isn't he coming back though?
Before that original
I've heard rumours
Star
that he
Trek
wants to
universe.
be in it though. Kind of do some time
As the young
play.
version of himself.
I think it'll be like a time play.
I don't know. I think
You know,
I just want to watch
I read
it,
something
maybe.
really interesting about Discovery the other day. I really want to watch it,
Yeah.
but every time I'm on Netflix and I want to watch Star Trek, I've done it a few times. I go, I can watch Discovery or the original series.
Yeah.
And I just go for the original series because that's my favourite, so I watch the
Yeah.
original. But I heard, was it this week or a previous week, they did a previously on Star Trek Discovery and they used footage from
It was
the
episode 8.
the
Yeah.
pilot, which
Yeah.
was it Captain Pike? Is
Yeah,
Captain
yeah.
Pike a character in this series now?
Captain Pike is the captain of the Starship Discovery.
That's
series
really
2.
interesting.
He came off the
Yeah.
Enterprise. They tracked down the Enterprise at the beginning of episode 1
Yeah.
because it's set 10 years before. Captain Pike's still the captain of Enterprise, and he transfers onto the Discovery to take control of like the season mission, basically to take control because Discovery no longer has a captain really because Well, because of season 1, you've got to watch season 1.
It's really interesting how they folded in Pike, because he was the captain in the pilot, and then it went to series and he was replaced with Kirk. And then a few episodes in, they used the footage from the pilot to save money in an episode called the Menagerie. And they used footage of Pike from the pilot as part of the episode, and now they're using it again.
Yeah.
So I think it's really like...
It's kind of cool.
Star Trek fanboys, like... I mean, I like Star Trek,
yeah,
but Star Trek real fanboys must be like loving that. That sounds amazing.
I think it's a high quality TV series.
Yeah,
regardless.
the budget must be
like,
massive for it.
No, I definitely want to see that.
It all looks like the new movies. Like the budget for every episode must be a couple
and
billion.
is Michelle Yeoh still in it? I'm excited to see Michelle Yeoh.
Is amazing.
She's fantastic.
She was in season 1, so if you're only on season 1, you might be wondering how she's still in it. But like, it's it's worth getting through it to see. I mean, you don't even have to try to get through it, as far as I'm concerned. I think it's really easy to watch.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah.
Luke?
Well, as well as reading the thing and watching the thing and watching the thing and watching the thing,
and then finding out about another thing
this week, and then finding out about a few more things that I didn't know existed, I actually managed to squeeze in a film this week that is kind of thematically similar to the thing in ways. Overlord came out around about Christmas, and I did not want to go see it at the cinema.
The trailer looked terrible.
Was not interested. I thought the trailer looked really bad. I thought it looked like just, really loud, stupid.
Like a crap Outpost? Or,
yeah, because I really like Outpost. But my brother was adamant I watched it. So it's out on Blu-ray and DVD this week. Send me a free copy. And check it out, because, it's incredible. I sat and expected this loud, dumb movie. It's 2 incredible movies in one. It's a real gritty, sort of visceral, violent, bloody war movie, which at one point then takes a really sharp turn into being a horror, and it's fantastic. It's kind of got a feeling of the thing when I was watching it. It's kind of got that feel of it's almost like the best way to describe it would be like Platoon meets Reanimator.
Oh, okay.
Which already it's fantastic. It's a great concept. Nazi evil scientists has been done to death over the years, and you think, I've seen this already. But this is just that really, really well done. And actually, thematically, it's similar again, because it's got Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell. It's probably Wyatt Russell
Doc Holliday
as one of the lead characters, and he's trying his hardest to portray that McCready type character.
Sounds a bit like Our Point, the Korean kind of soldier zombie movie.
Okay, I've not seen
that as well.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that. No, bit of embarrassing moment for me.
But I didn't give it a chance, and I'm glad I did. I actually watched it twice within the space of about a day because I was just so impressed with it. So I highly recommend Overlord. Real nice surprise. It would have gone on my list for last year, I think. Now
you'll have to lend me the Blu-ray, Luke.
Yeah.
Produced by JJ.
Yeah, I think it was produced by
JJ's Knock'em Out the Park with Discovery.
Yeah. Quite a few times recently, it's been a case of you see a really well-cut, impressive trailer, and then the film lets it down.
Yeah,
this sounds quite the opposite.
I'm really hoping that Hellboy is going to be the same, because I've not been impressed with the trailers.
No, the trailers.
And I'm hoping it knocks out the park, kind of like Overlord did. But yeah, Overlord really works for me. I definitely recommend it.
Sam, what have you been watching this week?
I'm going to go with the Ricky Gervais Netflix show Afterlife.
I saw the advert and thought, it looks like The Invention of Lying, and I hate every Ricky Gervais film I've seen, I think. I don't like any of the films I've seen. I read the synopsis. Tony changes after his wife dies. The formerly nice guy decides to live long enough to punish the world by saying and doing whatever he likes. And I thought, sounds like The Invention of Lying, don't want to see that. But actually, it's a really quite sombre, heartfelt drama about losing somebody and dealing with loss. It's really funny, really dark in places.
It looks quite good.
I'd really recommend it. Literally, I watched all the episodes in one day.
Okay,
it's great. I just watched through them. There's not many, maybe 8.
I've watched the first episode. My wife, we quite like. It's a big Ricky Gervais fans. It's slightly different. I feel like he's gone down a different route with this.
Yeah,
we missed Derek. Kind of, he went kind of a more sombre.
Yeah, it kind of feels more like that. I love his TV stuff. I just hate his films. And I think he should stick to this.
I love his TV, and the only film that I've watched of his that I really enjoyed was that one that he did with Eric Bana. I think it was a Netflix.
Oh, that was a Netflix
exclusive.
Oh
by
yeah,
the reporters.
tell her I do like a Ricky Gervais movie. Yeah, they were reporters, weren't they?
Correspondence or
Something like that.
Special
Special correspondence. That was
Special
brilliant. That was
correspondence.
hilarious.
Yeah.
There's a moment when he like needs the toilet and he's running through a battle scene, and it's like the funniest thing I've seen.
That's the only scene from that film I've seen because my wife watched it and I came in, she won't watch this, and it was him being a badass and taking down a whole camp while needing the toilet with a gun. And it was just like, the least action hero man of all time.
Yeah,
Like,
Ricky Gervais, you're doing one good
Yeah.
film, I think.
yeah,
But yeah,
This is the second one. The second
The
Ricky Gervais film.
yeah.
I really enjoyed this series, and I'd really recommend it. It's hilarious in places, laugh out loud in places, and literally makes you want to cry in places.
Yeah.
Too much.
Man, we're really big on recommending Netflix stuff. It's indicative of what our lives are like, isn't it?
I could have gone for an Amazon special, but I thought I'd save that for next week.
I didn't go for a Netflix. I didn't go for an Amazon special. Mine is a YouTube special.
Ooh.
It's not even a YouTube special, really. It's a YouTube video in the form of a
I
short
think I watched it
film.
on Vimeo. I think it's available
A
on
Vimeo special.
multiple streaming platforms.
It's a short film because I had a really busy week and didn't have time for a full film.
Yeah.
Oh, whose fault's that, Rob?
It's my own. It's my own fault. I'm sorry. The short film's called Silence, directed by Bernardo Jimenez, and it's starring a climber called Adam Ondra.
He's a really butch guy from Czechoslovakia, isn't he?
Yeah, so I watched this based on Sam's last recommendation, Free Solo.
You enjoy it?
I really enjoyed it. And then I got into a sort of black hole of climbing videos and came across this. It's called Silence because it's the name of the world's hardest and highest graded climbing route. And Sam and Luke, and maybe Alex, I know you've dabbled in climbing in the past.
Yeah, I've done Silence a few times. I've climbed it.
You freestyle'd it, didn't you?
Freestyle
Free
it,
Solo
basically, yeah.
Silence.
Yeah.
No, I get to the top of the... well, it's not even there, Wolf Mountain in Wolverhampton. I got to the top of that and just freak out with fear. It's so scary on a rope. So.
I find that
Not
if
a
you've
chance.
got Limp Bizkit blaring in your ears, you can climb anything.
Okay.
That's the trick.
I like to be inspired by Vertical Limit personally. Like when in doubt, just cut the rope. You know?
So never climb with Alex. Is the moral of the
He will
story.
leave you for dead.
So for any climbing enthusiasts, the route has a proposed rating of 9C, or 515D in American terms, and it follows Ondra during the inception of the route in 2012, and it takes him 5 years to complete an 80-metre climbing route,
Okay.
and it just follows him throughout this journey.
It's atrocious, isn't it? The climbing route you're trying
It's
to
like-
tackle. The rock is just
It's all upside down, inverted,
spiky rocks.
karate kicks, wedging his foot hanging upside down.
It's super technical.
It's just impressive from start to finish.
It's
even
more
if
just,
you don't
it's more
appreciate
his story
climbing.
of just perseverance, isn't it? Because the falls, the constant setbacks he has.
Yeah, well, he lives in Czechoslovakia, and the climb itself was in Norway. So every time he wanted to attempt it, he had to travel like 1,500 miles to get there.
Yeah.
So he built an exact replica of every single move in a barn,
Oh,
like at a
wow.
home gym, so he could practice. And he had a personal physiotherapist, so he could train his calves to hold his entire body weight.
Oh my god.
And
Is he
it's
still
just-
alive? Do you know?
It's still going.
Is
yeah.
he's like the strongest looking. He's like small, but he's like built
Yeah.
like a tank, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got so much muscle.
I mean, it's not
to do these
impressive in the
moves.
same terms as Free Solo because he's using ropes. So if he falls, there's not as dire consequences.
Yeah.
But just the
Tech-
sheer
The
difficulty.
technicality of it is, yeah.
So it's only 17 minutes long, this short film. So I'd recommend everyone go and watch it, even if you like climbing.
Is
or
it
not.
bad when you said that he built it in the barn? I just had visions of Synecdoche in New York, and I was out. He managed to build the entire climb in a barn.
I was like, whoa.
That's really good.
It was a big barn. It was like
Yeah.
a farmhouse.
Oh wow!
It is
No,
dramatised
yeah,
by Philip
and it's and that's just you can just get it on YouTube.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just type silence. and it
Yeah,
comes
so
straight
we'll whack the link to that in the description of the episode.
Just jumping on
check it out.
Rob's climbing kind of black hole, there's a great documentary on Amazon, called Valley Uprising. I think it may have come to Netflix as well. Which is kind of if you enjoy Free Solo, it's a great prequel to it. It's the whole history of that area before it comes to his Free Solo.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
So
great.
go and watch them climbing.
That went well. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
decent.
it- yeah.
Pleased with that. We won't have to do another take.
I'm just going to go to the bathroom, do a poo before we film the main bit, yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
Cool, cool.
Actually, while you're going, do you guys want a coffee or a drink or anything? I'll
Yeah, please.
go. Okay.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
get water, please.
Okay. I'll pop that then.
Sam, Are you sure you're feeling all right? Sam! Sam! Sam!
Beyond pleasure. Toxic chemical waste. Are back.
Howard Hawks' all-time science fiction classic, The Thing from Another World.
So, diving straight into the main course, the pièce de résistance, we go from Have You Ever Seen to What Did You Think of The Thing? And so as not to confuse matters, we'll be starting chronologically by release with not only The Thing from Another World, but first of all, Who Goes There? The novel by John W. Campbell.
Yeah, so Who Goes There? 1938 short story by John W. Campbell Jr., in which a group of scientific researchers isolated in Antarctica by the nearly ended winter discover an alien spaceship buried in the ice where it crashed 20 million years before. So this was, where the seed of it all was planted. We've got a short story written in 38, which it's a good short story. I mean, content-wise, it's got all the key ingredients of what we know and love as The Thing. It's not a perfect book.
I think it's quite well written. I think it doesn't feel dated, doesn't you read that?
No, it is good. There's a lot within the first 2 or 3 pages. It starts off with the thing creature on a block of ice, and you can tell it's of the era because there's kind of thoughts of it, and I think this comes up in the 51 film of it's just a Martian. The idea of you couldn't get away with having a Martian there, could you? Because we all know there's nothing on Mars. But back then it was every alien came from Mars, and it had in the book it was a very different looking creature. It had 3 red eyes and snake or worm-like blue hair. And it was sitting in the ice, looking out with those evil red eyes. But it's a real contemplative sort of little book, and it focuses on that paranoia. And like I said, all the key ingredients are there.
Yeah, I'm at a quarter way through it. It feels like The Thing. It feels great. I love the section. You feel the cold as you read it.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. A lot of the character interpretations are very different to how they ended up on the screen.
But better in some ways. I think each version's got its own take, hasn't it?
I think it's not my favourite version, but obviously it's the very first one, so that's where...
If he'd written the words Kurt Russell enters...
I think probably the best thing for me to do with the book is if I scatter through what some of the similarities and differences were as we talk about the other films.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And then we can sort of compare where it came from.
I think it's quite apt that the films came from a short story, because the one thing that all the films have in common is the pacing's quite quick. It's not like it has a huge novel of information to take from.
That's the best thing about the thing. It just gets straight into the meat of...
The book really sort of focuses on that feeling of paranoia and you are not what you think you are, which I think the films were right to focus on rather than there's a big alien.
That's the exciting part, isn't it?
Which would have been the easy thing, the route to go down of that era, the 50s sci-fi movie and the way sci-fi was done back then. But I mean, sci-fi novels have always been ahead of the media, like the ideas in literature have always been 20 or 30 years ahead of what we see on the screen.
I think you see that in every version. People don't like them as much, and then we'll talk about that as we get there, won't we?
But so I mean, the 51 film's probably the best place to start, really, then start thinking about that. So, very different film, is it, Sam?
So, the 1951 film, which is directed by Christian Nyby, and is actually co-directed by Howard Hawks, uncredited. So it's a Howard Hawks picture.
There's rumours that he actually took the reins on that
quite
film.
A big hand, apparently. He's on IMDb now. He's now credited.
Yeah, it was his Winchester production company, wasn't it?
Winchester.
He only did a couple of films.
Winchester as in the guns?
Like the rifle. I think that was the name of his company. But sorry, Sam.
So it's based on the John W. Campbell Jr. short story. It's turned into a screenplay by Charles Lederer. And the synopsis there: scientists and American Air Force officials fend off a bloodthirsty alien organism while at a remote Arctic outpost. Arctic in this case, they switched it. Did you not notice that?
I didn't even notice that.
I'm sure they said Arctic a few times. They moved it north.
Okay.
I wonder what the reason was for that.
Polar bears.
Maybe penguins aren't scary.
Polar bears.
Did it mention in the book whether it was Arctic or
Antarctic. It's Antarctic.
Clearly
It's
Antarctic.
the only version.
It's Antarctic in the
This is
book.
the
so
only
it's-
version that switches north, but they're interchangeable. Same
Yeah,
thing.
Maybe
yes.
someone else was filming in the Antarctic at the time, so they had to switch it up, you know.
Onomatopoeia. Aliens over space in Antarctica.
You know what? When we were rewatching it the other day, my brother made quite a good point, and how different the film would be today with the melting of the caps.
Yeah.
Like it definitely would not look the same, would it?
1951 version was actually filmed in Glacier National Park and at a Los Angeles ice storage plant.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what's happening in the ice storage plant. These guys aren't acting cold enough. Let's get them cold.
So from the very beginning, it's got that sort of nervous tension. The score, right from the very start, it's loud, it's in your face.
Yeah.
And then there's just the thing burnt onto the screen, which is iconic.
Yeah, and actually John Carpenter took it from that, didn't he? I thought that amazed me.
This film was
3 films, isn't it? That opening bit is
highly influential. I think a lot of modern horror directors were influenced heavily by this film.
The thing that impressed me in the opening was when the plane comes in, I was like, oh, that's a nice miniature. And then the plane lands and they get out of it. I was like, that's not a miniature. They're using full-size planes.
They were
this
all
thing.
miniatures, they were really
Or
small.
the tiny stop-motion men. No, it really impressed me. It must have had some real budget. I tried to find the budget from it,
I
but
think it had the equivalent.
1.6 million estimated. That's like an equivalent
original?
budget. Yeah.
Was it?
$1.6 million.
And it made 4.251, so it
Okay.
so it did really well.
quadrupled its budget.
I thought it was much lower than that, but okay. Yeah.
I think that's like estimated for today as well.
I think the thing that really stands out for me, and I first saw this film maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It's very famous for the overlapping sort of naturalistic dialogue.
Can I bet you forgot my hair?
Tell me I'm practically at the North Pole. Looks more like my old Kentucky home.
Mr. Scott, Mrs. Chapman.
Pleasure, Mrs.
Hello,
Chapman.
Doctor. Nice to see you. Dr. Chapman, Mr. Scott.
Dr.
Hello.
Chapman.
Scotty's a newspaper man.
It's really interesting. It can sometimes verge on cocky and cocky banter, and everyone
That's good.
constantly
I like that.
trying to
One up each other.
with the things they say, and they talk over each other.
Yeah. It feels scripted though. I mean, Hawks was notorious for sticking to his scripts. If he was involved, then he wouldn't have let them ad-lib really.
The thing,
Yeah.
the
The
thing,
film was expensive.
the thing for me in terms of the 1951, like it's a completely different sort of dialogue-based concept to the other two because it's essentially two sides, isn't it? It's science and knowledge versus survival, isn't it? And there's two factions, and there's no infighting within those two factions. With the other two films, it's sort of every man for himself.
Yeah,
You can only trust yourself, isn't
You
it?
say that, but I mean, there's a weird sort of subplot in which the scientist is always made a villain in the original 51 film.
Yeah.
It must be of the era where the
People
kind of
mentioned science,
message
did they?
where yes, science is evil,
They mentioned the
and
atom bomb a lot,
the
don't they?
pursuit of science is
We
a
split
bad
the
thing.
atom. This is the next
Like-
big find.
Whereas I kind of agree with the scientist. I understand his reasoning. Like
It's
I think
logic. It's
that-
clear, sensible logic.
It made me think of, and it's a really weird link. The Meg that came out recently with Jason Statham. Right,
When
bear
they
with
say,
me.
don't save them, it's not
Like-
worth the risk.
And I haven't seen the film itself, but in the trailer they're like, let's go kill this bloody shark, let's headbutt it with a nuke on my head.
You
or
don't need to
whatever.
see it, you've just summarised it.
But we wouldn't kill it.
No,
don't
it's
kill
historical
the last
times.
megalodon. Let it eat as many people as it wants. It's the last megalodon.
I don't know,
Keep
man.
it.
You can tell you haven't seen it.
I take the opposite view. I think like science is great and it's like whatever, but up to the point that it destroys life on Earth, it ceases to exist in itself, doesn't it? Science.
I did see him as a true villain
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
film.
yeah.
I could see his logic.
Yeah.
It was perfectly good logic, but he went about it the wrong way.
Well, he was
Yeah.
He was
he's
too extreme.
He's Thanos, isn't he?
It's
You
the
can
same.
see his logic.
Yeah.
For me, it reminded me of like the nuclear bombs that went off. I mean, it was what 45 they went off in Japan, the 2 nuclear bombs. It was sort of the pursuit of science led to the death of like entire sort of like mass communities
Cities,
kind of thing. And was it worth it? Was it worth discovering that we could make such a big impact?
The Americans would say
Like,
yes,
at the
because
cost
it
of
ended
the life.
the war, didn't it? It's where you save more lives on their side, honestly.
Well, what was clever about that though, with the scientist character? Do we know his name? Sorry, in the original thing,
Robert Cornthwaite.
is he the scientist?
Yeah,
Dr. Arthur
What,
Carrington.
what I like about his character though, he's not doing it for the pursuit of fame or a Nobel Prize. He's willing to lay his own life on the line.
Yeah.
He thinks
And everyone else's.
we have an obligation to die for this once in a lifetime creature to be.
But they have
Survive.
to just the thing is though they have to destroy it there and then, otherwise it's not only his life and their life that he's deciding on, it's everyone else's life on the planet, isn't it? If this thing spreads,
You think
everyone
it's very
else is lying
philosophical,
there.
Alex.
It's philosophical, man. I don't
Yeah.
want to die because some scientist in the Arctic is making a decision.
Yeah.
Oh, you know,
That's Captain Patrick Hendry's route, isn't he? He wants to literally wipe this thing out, even going against army orders.
Yeah.
I think
he could be court-martial for this kind of thing.
I think the whole film's quite philosophical. Some of the imagery and some of the one-liners throughout. Just from the very beginning, a few minutes from now, we might have the key to the stars. 1 million years of history are over there in that ice. But how many films nowadays do you have like really philosophical imagery just in one line of dialogue?
Yeah. And that happens in the book as well. There's the discussion of whether they should even defrost it or not. You know, and a good chunk of it is that discussion of what are the implications of doing this? Is the pursuit of knowledge worth opening Pandora's box?
That's the real 50s trope, isn't it? Science versus humanity. Really.
That did last all the way throughout, and it's really interesting.
It's well explored.
I think one of the key differences, though, between the book and the 51 film, and all the other actual interpretations, is the creature itself. In which, in the books and the newer films, we've got this creature which is able to transform and become other things. In the 51 one, we've got vegetable Frankenstein,
intelligent carrot,
an intelligent, a super carrot who poses the threat. So, what did we think of the creature?
I think the creature effects themselves weren't great, but obviously for the time.
No, it was quite primitive.
Some of the stunts, the thing that stood out for me was the fire sequence. When he walks in and they burn him.
Yeah.
That was terrifying. Because you know for a fact that a stuntman almost died in that scene.
There's a real sense of danger in that scene, isn't there? When everything's on fire and he's lashing out and the set is setting on fire and other actors are setting on fire.
I mean, it looks completely and utterly, and I think it probably is completely and utterly uncontrolled.
They're
just throwing kerosene.
Yeah, that guy's just petrol bombed
in
a suit, I guess, which is holding it back. But didn't you say, Rob, it held the record for a little while?
Yeah, for a while. I think it held the record for the longest stuntman firewalk.
Totally, I can see that.
Yeah.
I think I read, actually, I've got it here. I've got a really interesting fact on that. So veteran stuntman Tom Steele replaced James Arneson in the fire scene. James Arneson played the creature. He wore an asbestos suit with a special fiberglass helmet with an oxygen supply underneath, pure oxygen, and he used 100% oxygen supply, which is highly combustible. So it was pure luck that he didn't completely burn his lungs while doing that scene.
But explode and blow everyone to smithereens.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have made great cinema, though.
I would have kept it in.
Yeah, I would have kept it.
I mean, like when they blow out the ship, and we've got thermite player, let's blow the ship up. That seems impressive, isn't it?
Yeah. It's quite funny when they do blow up the ship, and it's just a matter of fact kind of thing. Oh crap!
Some of it may have survived. Let's go check.
And everyone's just science. Let's defrost this ship. Oh damn, we blew it up. Yeah, that, to be fair though, again, I sound like that guy. You know, that guy at the cinema's not as good as the book. In the book, that's what happens though. They use the thermite and the ship disintegrates, and what they've got left is the creature.
The ship's oxygen sensitive or something.
And I think, you know what, I think that's a part that they should have included later on in the Kurt Russell film. Because they visit the ship, but it's not really mentioned again. Like, an alien spacecraft.
The prequel does a lot more with it, doesn't it?
They bring some parts of the metal back, but there's not much they actually
do.
They're
not impressed by that, are they?
They're not impressed by that.
Spaceship. See that every day. I've seen you.
Whatever. Let's go.
All it is a spaceship for me, like throughout all three films really, maybe apart from the last one where they try and do something with it, but it is just a vessel that got the alien from A to B, essentially, isn't it? Like, it's not about the vessel.
I kind of get the feeling it's not the alien ship, it's kind of commandeered it.
You know what, I've got that feeling as well. And I think when we talk about the 2011 film, I think that's something that needs discussing, because I think that was an original element to it that was damaged with the final edit. The first idea of this creature was to have it as a transforming creature. I think when they did original sketches, they did, things like the hand transforming into a plant. But I think it was just too expensive, so they ended up with what we had on screen.
It did take me a while to come to terms with the fact it was an intellectual carrot. It took me a while.
I kind of wish I'd watched this 51 version before watching the other two films, because I did find myself waiting for it to be the same film as the other two, and I feel like I would have enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it and I thought it was a really good watch, but I think I would have enjoyed it more if I hadn't been waiting for people to turn on each other. Like,
it lost that sense of paranoia, didn't it? That was an element that was completely gone.
Which was fine. It was the first film that came out, so it came out within its own context. But watching the 82 and the 2011 version first, I was watching this 51 version thinking, when's it going? And it took me a while to get used to the fact that it's a completely different film in this style.
It felt a lot more like a pure monster movie to me. Which was more of the time, I suppose, of the 50s.
Definitely. What I feel is a real strength of it, though, is that I think they knew the creature looked a bit crap.
Yeah.
And rather than hiding from that and shying from that, they used it as a strength because he's used so sparingly. You barely see him.
No.
So when he does appear, it's got impact.
Yeah.
Like there's that scene where they're all kind of being cocky 50s, loudmouths, and they just open that door and just without any word of warning, he's just there. And there's this sort of conversation, and it makes you jump. I think it's really great.
Did make me think of Young Frankenstein, though.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. He does look.
That's an impressive thing. Bit of trivia here. When they all form the ring around the spaceship, that outdoor scene was actually filmed in 100-degree weather in the RKO Ranch in San Fernando Valley. So they're all there in super hot kind of fur gear, trying to act like they're freezing cold, and they're literally roasting to death.
I love that scene. I think it's great.
Yeah, some of these moments. So I think just the imagination of it. They didn't really have the ability to go to Alaska like Carpenter did, really.
Can we quickly talk about the two lead characters?
I think we need to.
Played by Margaret Sheridan and Kenneth Tobey. I thought they were the standouts.
Yeah.
As good as the Doctor was, I think Nikki Nicholson, one
of the sassiest on-screen women you've ever seen.
That's one thing that I think this film has. I mean, it's the gender-neutral kind of role of it. It's really good, isn't it? The women in it give as good as they get.
And that differs from the book, doesn't it? The book doesn't have any female characters.
No, they're based. There's around about 35. There's a crew of about 35 men, and it focuses on sort of 3 or 4 of the main sort of named ones from the later movie. But it's a big sort of scientific research expedition where it's all men, and it's interesting. You've got to have that love story there, haven't you? Again, it's very sort of 50s, and it's a really odd one. The dynamic between those two characters.
It is strange because even though throughout the film all she does is serve people coffee and greet people with a smile, you can tell she's a strong female character.
Well, she's been cooped up with all these blokes all this time. Yeah. I mean, you got to be strong, haven't you? Because they've all got the film opens with them being cocky about women and talking about dames in swimsuits and stuff, doesn't it? Essentially, and so and then you take it as read that it's going to be like
a boys' club, isn't it?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you've got this really strong female character, just sort of doing whatever she wants, talking however she wants to whoever she wants.
I think for me, she was my favourite character in the entire film. She's really great.
I kind of like Ned Scott, the journalist. I thought he was pretty funny. He's just constantly trying to get the story.
Yeah. It's so odd that in a film where they've discovered an alien spaceship and an alien gets loose and is, walking around the base and they're always in danger.
They're pretty relaxed about it.
They're really relaxed. They're constantly just joking, as if it's like a weekly occurrence that they have to deal with this sort of thing. They
we don't know where it is in the moment, do we? No, don't worry.
Don't follow me. You're going to be in danger. Well, I'm going to get the photo. Oh, come on then, you all. What's going on?
Yeah.
It's a real different beast. The sort of sense of danger isn't there. But when it is. When the creature first bursts out, I thought it was so funny when it cuts that scene of him ragging on the dogs. so you're just looking out the window and you get a little shot of the thing creature.
It's a furry thing flying through the air.
Beating a dog with another dog. Looking other dogs around. He's got the dogs.
And when you see him running off into the distance, just flapping his hands around.
It'd be great to watch that scene back to back with the 80s dog scene. Very, slightly different beast. And then you mentioned the music earlier being fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the things that's really great is the use of the theremin when the creature's first revealed, and you get that really wonderful.
That's the 50s, isn't it?
It's so much stereotypical and ridiculous today.
Plan knife mat space,
but worked in beautifully. You only hear the theremin when you see the creature.
Yeah.
I was going to try and do it then, but maybe we could stick in a bit of theremin. Edit into theremin. But, no, fantastic.
Yeah, great film. Really surprised me. Better than I ever expected it to be.
Yeah, I think my favourite bit was that last 10-minute sequence, starting from using the 3 Geiger counters to exactly find out where the alien creatures.
Do you reckon that must have been an influence on Aliens and James Cameron and the use of the trackers? Because it's the same thing, that sense of
Ping.
the ping as the creature approaches.
It's like triangulating.
Yeah.
That's really
and that's quite an
really
must be an early use.
Built loads of tension, didn't it, as well?
Yeah. And then obviously the mention of the big stunt at the end with the electricity.
Yeah. How was that done? Was that animation? Was that rotoscope animation? Or...
I've got no idea.
I wonder how
it was impressive though.
And there was use of a dwarf, a small person, as he shrank down and became a smaller version of himself.
Okay.
Yeah. So the creature is electrocuted at the end when they defeat him.
I thought it was just him crouching.
No. I think there's a famous photo on the set. We'll share on Instagram or something of him standing next to his little tiny stunt double. It's like a little mini me thing creature, and they cut to that to that image of the short creature. I think none of us have mentioned the moral behind this film, the main message of this film, which was remember to unplug your electric blankets.
Oh yeah, that was stupid, isn't it?
The way the creature escapes from the ice is the chap who's looking after him throws a blanket over so he doesn't have to look at the eyes of the creature. But it's plugged in as an electric blanket.
Yeah.
So unplug your. They should have had that as a message at the end.
Yeah.
This film was brought to you by the electric blanket safety board. Remember to unplug your electric blankets.
That's a good place to leave it, I think. So yeah, check those off, guys.
Fantastic.
So we're going to move on to the 82.
Yeah, I think that went
well.
well.
I think I did.
I think there's a few bits that might need a little trim, but I think that's
great.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Anyway, I'm just going to, before we do 1982, I'm just going to go for another poop. Sorry, yeah.
You're good, sir. Is it kimchi? Is it?
Hashtag kimchi, hashtag beetroot. You know?
Right, cool.
I'll see you. I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah.
Maybe more than a sec.
Yeah. Pleased with that.
Yeah, it was a good one.
What? Is that on your ear, Rob? What? What's...
It's nothing.
What's that?
It's nothing. It's fine.
What?
So, from 1951, we quickly scoot straight through to 1982 to John Carpenter's The Thing. Alex, you watched this one quite recently.
Really enjoyed it. I've got a cheeky little film synopsis to sort of black and white what happens.
Go on then.
Helicopter, dog, shoot at dog, American camp, Antarctica, alien, confusion, distrust, what's going on, the end.
That we don't need to talk about that.
Let's move on to 2011.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah, no, that's you still did pretty well. Yeah.
I don't really know where to go from there. As Alex said, there's quite a tone difference.
Yeah.
But the pace is just as good as the 51 film. It's not quite 20 seconds long, but it moves along at that sort of speed.
It is fast, isn't it? Like, it does progress quite quickly.
It goes straight into it, just like you did.
Yeah.
So, released in 1982, this actually came out on the very same day as Blade Runner. Another film that, at the time, was kind of critically panned.
Yeah, Blade Runner came out broken, didn't it? Came out with its voiceover and a lot of problems.
It was the same year as Poltergeist, E.T., Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan, Tron, Conan, Rocky 3, Dark Crystal, First Blood. Great year. But I think the thing that was often blamed for...
John Carpenter cites it completely as the thing that ruined it.
It was E.T.
Yeah, he said people don't want to see scary aliens because they love aliens.
People love family-friendly aliens, and then this was such a bleak, nihilistic...
We could have had Kurt Russell and a little BMX, couldn't we?
So unfortunately, at the time, it wasn't really considered as being a very good film. I think there were a lot of really negative reviews.
Roger Ebert hated it.
Yeah, he did.
And at the time, he was at like peak of his fame, really.
But over the years, it's grown more than a cult following. I think it's widely regarded, and I think I'm one of the sort of people who also consider it one of the greatest horror films ever made.
It is a classic horror.
I think it's definitely
Which is strange.
masterpiece territory now.
Yeah.
Listen to this. New York Times writer Vincent Canby. John Carpenter's The Thing is a foolish, depressing, overpriced movie, overproduced movie that mixes horror with science fiction to make something that is fun as neither one thing or the other.
Wow.
Yeah, couldn't find anything good with it. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars.
Makes you wonder what changed between then and now to make it such a classic in the genre, both genres.
I think it's massively ahead of its time.
Unlike a lot of other films that we often give, a pass to because they're classics or they're of the era or anything, this film stands up today completely.
Yeah.
Like you could release this today, and I think it would be as fantastic. It's kind of ageless in that sense.
Plus, John Carpenter's gone on to have like a really great career, hasn't he? So what would happen would be people would check back.
He had a great run.
Yeah.
And then crashed and burnt.
I mean, to have that much creativity for that long was impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back and he's got some masterpieces in his oeuvre, should we say?
His oeuvre. I'm often saying that, Sam. But no, I mean, it's easy to forget. So from Halloween in '78, he went on and did things. The Thing, They Live, Escape from New York, The Fog, Big Trouble in Little China, Mouth of Madness, Prince of Darkness, Christine, underrated gem. But then he did a lot of trash as well. Vampires, Ghosts of Mars, The Ward, Escape from LA, which
that's great.
It's an odd one, Escape from LA. But yeah,
the main thing is it LA with Isaac Hayes in it?
Yeah, I think so.
No, that's the first one.
Is that New York?
Yeah, that's New York.
They're still great. Both of them are great.
The second one's got Bruce Campbell in.
That's it.
Yeah.
And Peter Fonda as a surfer.
Yeah, that's the one. That's
it.
I think the main point as to why the film still stands up today, and to me the best thing about the film,
you can say all-male cast, Rob.
The all-male cast.
Boom!
The effects.
Yeah, the effects are wonderful.
Yeah. You know what? If you want to feel like you're not living up to your full potential, have a good close look at Rob Bottin, who did the effects at age 22 for this film.
But Rob Bottin, who was hospitalised with an ulcer, double pneumonia due to the stress of it, which is why Stan Winston had to jump in and work uncredited to finish it off for him.
Yeah, there was a special thanks credit, but I think because the bulk of the work was done by Rob.
It shows what a nice guy Stan Winston is, really, because he finished it off for him and he just went, no, it's Rob's work.
Yeah.
He's actually one of the nicest guys to work with in Hollywood, isn't he?
I mean, they are insane, the effects. They stand up today. And if they were in a film today, or if they were in a, say, 2011 version of The Thing, like, they would stand, like, they would look fine. They would not look out.
Well, we watched, the four of us managed to watch these films back to back, the 82, and then we watched the 2011 one straight after. And the biggest sort of litmus test for me was Alex's reaction. Who
visceral reaction.
Is it fair to say you're not a massive horror guy?
I mean, I'm not massively okay with horror in terms of it scares the crap out of me.
And all the way through this film, Alex's reaction was priceless. Constant screams and shocks and jumps.
I found myself waiting out of the corner, waiting for the chest chomp scene.
Yeah, I wanted to watch you rather than watch the screen. What's really funny, at the very beginning, we have the character from the Norwegian base who's chasing the dog. He gets shot in the eye, and you see him on the slab. And Alex is wincing and groaning at this small bullet hole. And at that point, I just burst out laughing because I knew what was to come.
Clear.
The effects are just absolutely... They're there, they're present, and they're disgusting. Your reaction to the 2011 one, we'll come to later, was not the same reaction.
No,
you were not shocked, and you were not scared in the same way.
Interesting fact was, I may have read this before, but they used a double amputee. So for the chest chomp scene, they really chopped through some fake arms.
Yeah.
Which I think is why you feel that hit of your stomach.
It really happened.
Yeah, they just get ripped off, and it feels so real.
Jesus Christ. That was shocking as well because he's doing the Next time I see someone having a heart attack, I don't know if I'm going to get the defibrillators. You know what I mean?
Sorry, mate.
It might be a thing.
Yeah, the best horror comes from surprise. And just the design of this creature, it can literally get you at any point.
Yeah, it can turn any part of its body into a weapon. It's amazing.
And when it's sort of opening up its bits, or you can feel every sort of vein or muscle bit. You can feel all the tissues separating.
Yeah, well, they used real animal organs, didn't they, during the autopsy scene?
Yeah.
So I think the sense of disgust on the crew's face was kind of genuine.
Yeah,
because they were tearing apart this.
They said it was buckets of KY jelly were just poured over it as well to make it ooze.
I think a lot of this was why critics and audiences reacted so badly to it because they thought it was disgusting.
Yeah. I suppose it's kind of the reaction we have to sort of torture porn, sort of horror, that thankfully we're over now. We've moved beyond that and gone to more sort of cerebral horror now.
This kind of, it was kind of the start of that video nasty 80s phase, wasn't it though, when we started seeing the gross out stuff.
Body horror.
I guess we're so in tune with modern day CGI that something like The Thing nowadays really does sort of jump out.
Yeah, because it is real. I think we're very good at spotting something real. Yeah. I think our eyes are built for it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and this came out after Alien, so that sort of psychological horror aspect people had already experienced. So that was no different in this. The only difference was you had these disgusting effects that people were just shocked by.
It was great because the effects is what sort of gets the headlines and stuff. But yeah, the whole psychological aspect of just the trust within the group absolutely evaporating as soon as they know that any one of them could be a thing after that initial discovery.
Yeah.
As soon as they know, it's just gone.
After the 80s computer manages to calculate with precision the percentage of who. How the thing assimilates cells, the likelihood of other people being... is it Wilford Brimley playing Blair? Yeah. He very quickly, works this out. You're right, I think the reason why this film works is it really lets you soak in that sense of paranoia.
Yeah.
And you don't know how, as an audience member, who to trust. The characters don't know who to trust.
You feel like a character yourself.
And the thing is, it's giving you enough time to root through each character as well. You don't want that character to be a thing. You don't want that person to have died. And I think that's what really works. I think, Sam, you mentioned it, how this cast, it's not just a bunch of young, pretty teens.
I miss that side of horror. I miss that side of films where...
It's real people, isn't it?
Bald middle-aged grizzled men who actually would be working at this place.
Yeah.
Joel Edgerton, he's a pretty boy. He'd be, in films. He wouldn't be working at this isolated base, slaving away.
You have Keith David and...
Get Larry David into these films. Talking about characters that don't really fit the bill. The Doc, I could not get past his nose ring. Why's he got a nose ring? I found that so distracting.
It's a bit of foreshadowing, isn't it, really?
Yeah, the metal.
If we go into the...
I guess maybe that's why, then, to try and...
unintentional, yeah.
I wonder whether it was unintentional.
He just refused to take it out.
Yeah, I ain't taking this nose ring out. I'm care from 57.
Just like I mentioned earlier with the 52 version, 51 version, the sound editing and the score.
Yeah, wonderful.
It goes well together with all the effects.
John Carpenter usually does his own soundtracks, doesn't he? In this case, because it was his first studio movie, he was a bit behind. He handed it over to Ennio Morricone. Do you know who actually wanted to do it first? It was Ray Parker Jr.
Really?
He wasn't really.
Oh man, that would have been brilliant.
The thing from Faith. Don't let it see your face.
Ennio Morricone absolutely knocked it out the park. Real subtle, grimy, John Carpenter-esque score.
Yeah, I feel like Carpenter must have played him some of his stuff because it feels like a Carpenter score.
And again, very ahead of its time. We're used to sort of Hans Zimmer with his sort of Christopher Nolan style scores now that are very subtle, very moody,
crescendo,
mood build, and they build
quite
rather than the the Star Wars themes and anthems that came. It was a very sort of mood building score.
It's got those long drones.
Didn't it
that
win an award,
rise to
or it was
screens.
nominated for an award, wasn't
It
it?
did. It got no. It was nominated for quite a prestigious award.
Yeah.
I think Howard the Duck won 4 of these, didn't it?
Howard the Duck did outdo the thing by winning 4 Razzies. Ennio Morricone was nominated for a Razzie. Bizarrely.
That's insane.
How would you think that?
Absolutely.
I think the
insane.
Razzies should be nominated for a Razzie.
Yeah, that's insane. The scores.
It's
a
almost
masterpiece.
like they completely misinterpreted every aspect of the film.
Yeah.
They didn't quite get it.
I guess because what he's known for, Morricone was a 5-time Oscar-winning composer, and then he made this sci-fi movie. They thought, "What are you doing, anyway?"
Yeah,
But
that's true.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's-
Acting wise, I can tell there's one character in the film that definitely deserves some kind of awards nod, and Alex was very impressed all the way through. He was on the edge of his seat every time this character appeared on screen, and that was our dog.
Dog One.
Oh yeah.
Dog one.
Dog one.
Unnamed Dog One.
Unnamed Dog One. I think some of the best dog acting ever on screen.
Looking out the window, looking kind of thoughtful.
When that dog's walking through the corridor, like towards you, kind of thing, and I was like, what the hell's going on? What's going to
They
happen?
must have given him
And
some
then,
things like, you need to be really mournful here. Think about,
Or you think the dog was asking the director what his
Yeah,
motivation
what motivation
was?
is.
It was great. You could see the emotion in
Yeah,
his
I think
face,
he
man.
says Carpenter's like,
It's-
you are an alien, you are...
Yeah.
It's so unsettling the moment where he puts the dog with the rest of the dogs, and he's just there sitting, and the other dogs are just around it.
Incredible effect when the tentacles come out.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, Alex isn't the only one who's overly impressed by this dog.
Mm.
In a lot of interviews after the film, John Carpenter raved about how well trained this dog was. He said he's never seen such a well trained actor in all of his career.
It's amazing. It was a really impressive performance.
I think he wanted to take Kurt Russell out of a lot of his films and recast the dog.
Yeah, put the dog in.
We were going to get dog placed.
It actually was. Fun fact, actually, people often think in Big Trouble in Little China that's Kurt Russell.
It's this dog.
Not so. It's this dog. Kurt Russell sort of they got Rob Bottin back to do the makeup.
Just a costume and a suit.
And it's this dog playing Kurt Russell, playing Jack Burton.
I think you can sense that,
which was a
can't you?
really
A little
impressive
bit gruffer voice, isn't
role
it?
for him. What are your favourite dog actors from films? Is this the number one performance ever?
This is- I
not
think
a dog actor.
I'm pretty sure this is the only time I've had my breath taken away by a dog.
Have you seen the TV series Wishbone?
No.
I like
He
those,
doesn't play anybody.
No,
I've seen him as
it was
Sherlock
fine.
Holmes. I've seen him as
those
Bob
two dogs from
Cratchit.
Homeward Bound.
Homeward
The
Bound.
two talking dogs that can actually talk.
I think
Yeah.
you guys need to check out The Hills Have Eyes, because the original Hills Have Eyes, because that's got some of the most impressive dog acting ever.
Yeah.
It's a kind of like a dog love story
Yeah.
between two dogs.
Yeah.
I think they're called Beauty and Beast, these dogs. Beast is amazing. So you check it
Okay,
out
yeah,
for some
yeah.
some more impeccable dog acting.
Do back to back with
Yeah.
Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
Or Beethoven.
Yeah.
Beethoven second.
Wow. I mean, regarding this film, I think my favourite thing about this film was sort of the mysteries that you... So basically, since I've watched this film, I've been watching like loads of YouTube videos about like...
Didn't you watch those before you watched the film?
No.
I thought you said you watched the spoiler before you saw
Oh,
it.
I knew the end. I knew the end of the film, and I knew the theory about the end. But it's stuff like Macready when he goes out and he says, "I need to go back to my cabin. We need to go back because the light's on." And it's then that sort of never gets resolved. But then
I assumed it was
Blair.
because Blair's
Because he's coming in and out of his cabin.
Yeah. So like,
Get something.
but it's just sort of that.
He's getting things to make his ship, isn't he?
It's just these mysteries for me that like I was thinking about.
Like who
after the film,
destroyed the blood?
Who destroyed the
Yeah,
blood?
yeah. Did you know they filmed a second ending?
Did they?
They filmed an alternative ending because they were worried that the bleak, ambiguous ending wouldn't test well.
Which
And
he did.
so the additional ending, Macready is rescued and appears in a room where he's given a blood test, which he passes. They wanted to make sure people knew that he was human.
Don't they get him out of the base? Don't they just leave?
He's rescued safe and he's clean. It just ruins that dark. These guys are going to die together. And
Well, in the original novel, they managed to work out the hot needle test. That's from the book. That after all these different ideas of the test, they come to that idea that that's how they can
because the
sort
blood
it
will
out.
protect itself.
And of the 35 people at the camp, they from that test decide that there's 14 of them who are the thing.
I think they 14
So
to a human.
they go through each of the 35. They destroy the 14, whack them in a pile, and just burn them. And that's the end. And I think the final thing they do is go out to check Blair, which like they do in the film.
Yeah.
And they want to do the test on him. And they discover that he's been working on something, very much like in the film, when he's creating a spaceship. But instead of making a spaceship, he's been working on like a heat source and an anti-gravity belt so they can leap. He can leap from the Antarctic and fly to like a populated area. One of the things that really worked in the book, though, that I thought raised the stakes a bit, was they kept talking about the idea of what if like an albatross or something flew inland, because the thing can only emulate creatures that it touches, and if it's ever touched a flying creature, it can't fly in our atmosphere. But they're like, if it touches an albatross or consumes one and becomes one, then we're in real trouble, because it will fly off and become a seal. That seal will fly off and become a whale. And he said it will take over the planet just by becoming us. And there's that sense of, you're like, oh my god, I really hope that an albatross... And at one point a bird does fly in and they shoot at it and have to try and bring it down because they're worried about the implications of that. So I think the book is a lot smarter in the science than the 51 film, which is... Let's just electrocute it, in that sense. But I think that would have been a really interesting element if they talked about that. But the anti-gravity belt...
I'm glad they didn't do that.
It would have been a bit of a weird ending. If McCready was like, right, we've got rid of everyone, let's try this anti-gravity belt on.
Do you think, like, I mean, what do you think of the ending? Do you think one of the two of them is
almost definitely?
I think the thing you said is quite an interesting idea, that he might have given him some oil to drink to prove that he laughs and he finds it funny.
I mean, he finds something funny, doesn't he? And then
maybe that sets up. I've just missed it every time.
Well, an alternative is, because one of the characters says to McCready earlier in the film about, we've got to drink out of our own bottles, eat tin food, and not share anything. And so he passes the bottle of whiskey to McCready.
So maybe he's just mean and he's smiling. Oh,
ambiguous. I love ambiguous.
Very interesting.
Not necessarily in the context of the characters, but in the special features on one of the Blu-ray versions. There's an interview with the director of photography, Dean Cundy, and he said when he was shooting certain scenes, he used a specific light which reflected from the eyes of the characters that weren't the thing. And
because when that thing's on the ice, he's got black eyes, hasn't he? The ball going.
And in the final scene, you see this speck of light in Kurt Russell's eyes, but not in Child's.
Okay.
And another thing he said that was used to reflect the fact that he thinks that Child's is a thing, in his opinion at least, was that his breath you can't see in that final scene. Like he's talking and breathing, but there's no.
Before.
I mean, that's a big moment. That's a moment in the 1951 film, isn't it? When they all realise that the generator's off and they're all sort of breathing. So I always just thought it was a bit of an Easter.
I guess that's why they must have shot in the ice building.
I saw it.
Trying to work out why they need an ice building if it's on sets, but it's cold.
Maybe it's just the mentality of it.
Jumping into that, actually, I think that's what really makes this one stand out from the previous film, because they were literally driving 27 miles a day north into the Alaskan wilderness to film at this base they'd made. And I think, the sets have been built during the summer, atop a rocky area. They'd let the snow cover them, and it just feels authentic. It feels like Antarctica.
At no point would you question it's anywhere else.
Additional fact: the Norwegian base and the American base are the same building. They just changed it slightly because they wanted to use the same set to save money.
I'm really looking forward to talking about the 2011 version, because that opening scene of the 1982 version, and the bit where they go back into the base.
There's some bits that are fantastic, I think.
And
I've got some facts about how they set those up, which we'll move into. It's so interesting what they did. There was some really faithful moments. Real love for it.
One of the most iconic elements of this film as well, which a lot of people are mostly familiar with, is the poster. Drew Struzan's famous poster for The Thing, which is, the man in the parka standing there with the beam of light.
Probably one of the most famous film posters of all time.
You can literally buy a shirt that is inspired by the colour scheme of that poster. I found it on $125, but you can buy a plaid.
We'll share a link to that as well.
We'll share a link to the shirt.
But I mean, there's a real interesting story behind that. I think Drew Struzan was just told, knock up a poster for this film. It's a remake of The Thing from Another World. And that was it. That's all the information he kind of had. He didn't know who the actors were, didn't know what the creature looked like, didn't know anything. And was it around about 3 days or something? He knocked up the
2 or 3 days.
That image. And when you look at it now, you realise that actually that's kind of got nothing to do with it. But it perfectly sort of sums it up in it, and it's so iconic. So
it's not a surprise, because if you look at some of the posters he did in prior years, they were amazing.
Genius. Drew Struzan.
But the 1982 film, I could just watch it every day.
I think it's that a round endorsement from all of us then.
I can't wait. I'm going to watch it again, definitely, just to sort of see it through different eyes, kind of thing. Just try and see how they can
into it.
Because it's like Palmer. He's one of the ones that I want to sort of see again.
The one that's
he doesn't appear in a lot of scenes.
What's the name of the dog handler?
Yeah.
He's always Clark's always established as need to be the suspicious one, and all the way through they really cleverly make you think it's him, don't they?
It's Palmer,
but he's just socially awkward.
Palmer, who doesn't do anything apart from like offer to fly a helicopter at the beginning, and like it's because he's off, and that, like it's sort of like, is he the one who got the keys? Is he the one who turned the light on? Because he wasn't in any of the scenes where anything happened. So he was one who could have gone about his business. So anyway, I'm really.
I love that this film's like so sunk into you. Like, it's really affected you.
It's the Shining Room 237 documentary. We're going to see something like Outpost 31 from Alex.
One final shout out then before we move on. If you're interested in that kind of paranoia and the idea of people turning on each other and not knowing what the alien is, I would highly recommend checking out a Twilight Zone episode called "The Monsters Are Due" on Maple Street, which plays with very similar themes, and it's become one of the most iconic sort of favourite Twilight Zone episodes. So before the new series comes out, I would definitely check that out. You know, it's set just in a little suburb where everyone thinks that everyone else is an alien, and it plays that very similarly. So
insert Twilight Zone music here.
Yeah, there we go.
Do you like wine? Do you like cinemas? Do you like drinking wine whilst watching a film at said cinema?
Yeah!
Then your search for things you like is finally over. At Lighthouse Wolverhampton, the wine film pairing is one that has aged well for over 25 years. Add to that good food, friendly staff, and an extremely chilled atmosphere, and we'd say you've got a winning combination. For upcoming listings for films, live satellite broadcasts of opera and ballet, as well as numerous different clubs and events, go to light-house.co.uk and find out more.
"48 hours ago, we found something quite remarkable.
What'd they find?
There's a structure.
In Antarctica?
And a specimen.
Really?
Touching down.
So this brings us to the 2011 film, which is a prequel to a remake of an adaptation of the novel Who Goes There by John W. Campbell, published in 1938. So nice, easy thing for us to all follow.
I'd fund it.
Yeah.
There's definitely an interesting market, isn't there?
There's no excuse for not having enough inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, this film takes place a few weeks before... not even a few weeks, probably. I mean, in the days leading up to the events of The Thing, which I think was a very clever way to go. I think the producers... we'll talk about producers in a bit. But I think the producers were wise to not go down a full remake territory, because you can't remake a perfect film, can you?
No.
And I suppose there's a lot of jokes we can make about this being some kind of carbon copy or some kind of alien sort of but
I mean, unless you're going to have a full female cast, then there's no point in remaking it.
To be fair to the producers, they convinced Universal to let them do a prequel. Universal wanted a straight remake, and they said that film was already perfect. This would be like painting a moustache on the Mona Lisa.
Yeah,
which
that's about right.
And you know what? And I think it's a really interesting story to tell. The discovery of the ship and the discovery of the creature.
Big question, isn't it?
It was always the obvious. I mean, that should have been the obvious film to make in the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that wasn't done before. And there was such a rich sort of story well to draw from.
Yeah, I think I like that a bit like Episode 4 of Star Wars, implying there was more before.
Yeah,
it builds a world already. So this exists.
Yeah,
you're jumping into the action straight away.
I mean, I love the opening of the 1982 film with the helicopter riding in, shooting the dog, and then this crazy Norwegian dude coming off just shooting his gun.
It leads perfectly to making a prequel.
Yeah. I mean, and then they go to the Norwegian base, don't they? I mean, it's all there.
There's obviously a story there that is to be told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting sort of perspective as well, I think. Because you start this film knowing, having seen the Norwegian base at the end of it all, you start this film knowing that it's not going to go well for any of the characters.
You literally see it with axes through doors locked. Interesting facts about the Norwegian base. Sorry, Luke.
Yeah.
John Carpenter had no drawings, no plans for that base. So they had to go back to all the original drawings. And to get the height, the scale right, they went from Kurt Russell's height. And every room is estimated based on how many Kurt Russells would fit here, how many Kurt Russells would fit there. So they had loads of drawings.
The Kurt Russell scale.
I used it for my new extension. It's like, okay, it's 5 Kurt Russells long, 2 Kurt Russells high.
It's a unit of measurement. I think will catch on.
Yeah,
I think
I hate metric. It's so confusing.
One of the most impressive things is that, though, isn't it, the production design and the attention to detail that they put in the 2011 film. As a fan of The Thing, you can sit there and there's just a massive amount of Easter eggs that you can look out for. Yeah. You know, you know what's going to happen in this film, and it's enjoyable watching the route it takes, the journey it takes to get there.
I mean, it wasn't even difficult, was it? Because I mean, when Kurt Russell's originally walking round, he stops and he just looks at an axe in the door. You see this big ice coffin, thing. You see the guy who's got his wrists slit and his neck slit, like sitting on a chair.
Faces melting.
All those two faces together. It's like the film. The film was already made for them, wasn't it? So it was just a case of following.
It's great. How did this happen? How did it get here? I wonder what led to this. And
there's two sides to see from that. I mean, in one view, you could say that it's almost a slave to that. But as a fan, I think that didn't bother me too much.
It wasn't
be a slave. It wasn't like a solo moment, was it? Of we've got to make the castle run now.
No, it wasn't that obvious.
Hey, we've got a new job with a guy. He's a proper gangster. The Huts.
And I think with a modern audience who probably aren't familiar with The Thing, that issue isn't present, is it? It's only for like real hardcore fans. Yeah. Who will be looking out for
and
those
I think
things.
they built some great mythos. I know one of your favourite things is the use of metal and the use of fillings and earrings and things like that. And they built these things up, didn't they? Made more of
But because it was another take on how to identify the aliens. So it wasn't like bare knuckle copying.
Definitely a flawed take on how to do it.
Yeah, well,
is that a saying? Is bare knuckle copying? Is that? I just want to. Is that something that people say?
That's what I've been saying it for years. Bare knuckle copying.
You're always bare knuckle copying.
Hashtag bare knuckle copying. But like that, I like that scene because it was flawed. The fact that the creature gets rid of any metal or non-organic
it's
material.
a smart idea.
So when they're all sort of facing off and they're trying to discover who's who, they've got 4 people without fillings.
Yeah.
So and they don't know that they are the Thing, but they know that the people with fillings aren't the Thing.
Right now, it's at least something. A way to eliminate some of us.
So I'm gonna get killed because I have flaws.
Nobody's getting killed.
Okay.
That does poo on your kind of theory of the last one, because in the final scene of the 82 film, Childs has an earring in.
But
he could have been like, oh, hang on.
Could have put it,
just a clip-on earring.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I think
this is why I need to watch it again.
It's a clever idea, and the 2011 Thing does lean into that sense of paranoia, and you're looking at as much. I don't think it does it as well as the 82 one.
No.
It's there, it's present, but I feel like they were afraid to really
it does it for
go into that.
It's like a subtitle, isn't it?
Yeah.
It almost to the point where the body grows legs, and then it just kind of turns into a survival action, as opposed to survival horror.
I mean, you know who's going to survive. Well, survive for the most part of the film, don't you? You know which 2 characters. The dog. Yeah. You like you see the actors. You know who's going to make it. You know that the scientist is going to get his he's just going to go wrong.
Evil scientist, almost lifted directly from the 51 film.
Which I think is really good. I think it's a really nice touch. But the guy from the scientist in the 51 film, he's like a smart guy in the pursuit of knowledge, and all he cares about is knowledge. And it's kind of like you can kind of respect that viewpoint as much as I disagree with him. But the scientist in this one, I think he's just stupid. I think he's just an idiot. It's like let's just get a sample, and then she's not even against the science. She's just for normal procedure.
He's very much like a lot of the characters in the Aliens franchise who want to keep the alien alive for other purposes and other reasons. I think mentioning the actors though, I think if we're talking about positives in the 2011 film, I think that is one of the biggest strengths, the casting and the performances in this film. It's a lot of really likeable characters, especially the Norwegians and the crew there. That guy with a massive beard.
Lars.
Mm. Oh no, Lars is the survivor, isn't it? At the end, the helicopter pilot.
Lars.
Yeah, he was my favourite character, isn't he?
The one who doesn't speak any English.
Jorgen Lanhill.
Yeah, but I mean, in an ideal world, this film would have been made with a full Norwegian cast, with
completely subtitled.
Full practical effects, and I think that would have made it.
I'm happy that it was recognised though. Like there were subtitles and there were Norwegians. And
Yeah,
there was one Norwegian who couldn't speak English. So
Yeah.
I like the fact that they went.
He can't
for it.
defend himself, can he? When people are accusing him,
And it's almost like they had the intention of having full practical effects.
Yeah.
Well,
When you look at the behind the scenes,
pretty much all the way through with like wire pulled puppetry.
Which I think this is the biggest contentious issue with this film, and this is what a lot of people have issues with. Is that 82, as much as it's famous for the paranoia and the mood and the atmosphere, it's as famous for its effects. And I remember clearly being so excited in the run-up to this film. There was everyone behind it saying, we are doing practical effects, we want it to emulate that from the original. And then the film's released, and it was a CGI fest, and everything looked rubbery, and it looked like the creatures from I Am Legend.
I mean, the worst CGI effects, the first one, wasn't it? And like for me, the build up to that moment where she starts putting it all together and she starts starting to realise, but the helicopter's already taken off. Yeah. So she's waving the helicopter down, so it's building up to this massive sort of, reveal.
Which should be a moment for you to jump out of your skin.
Yeah. And then it just, I think character's name's Griggs. He's got this resting shit CGI face. Like this face just opens up, but it's just like it's a cartoon or something.
Because they've been pulled by wires and puppetry in the first film, you can see the face contort and
this is a video game scene, isn't it?
Crap video games.
Yeah.
It's when you play the video game and you're disappointed in the CGI.
It's like PS1 when you're really excited by the cutscenes that looked almost like real life.
Yeah, you play them
actually, you play them again, they're terrible.
You play the video game, don't you? And it's sort of...
I mean, for me, it had on the other side of it, I was at that point, because it was so bad, I was sort of like, as expected, for the rest of the film, I was kind of okay with it. It was just a sharp introduction to shit.
It's my big criticism of It, the new movie. The first scene plays out beautifully, builds suspense, and then they just tear off a big, CGI mouth to pull little, what's his name?
Georgie.
Little Georgie's arm off, and it just...
I think horror benefits from things being real, and people reacting to real things on the set.
In defence of the studio, they said they'd always intended for that to happen. Yeah. So they used cable-operated animatronic robots at the director's insistence because they wanted the cast to act off something. But then I just don't understand why they went back over the top and...
I think another thing we'll have to link to from this is Studio ADI's original behind-the-scenes footage. The test footage, if you watch the creatures they created for this film, are more impressive to watch. Just, they're not even well lit or well shot in these behind-the-scenes footage, and they're already 10 times more impressive than
because in
what
the
we see
first
on the
one, they
screen.
deliberately underlit them, so they looked even better, didn't they? They haven't even been covered in KY jelly yet.
Yeah.
And they look great. Within perfect.
Sam going on about KY jelly again.
He's always going about KY jelly. Have you not seen the sandpit outside?
It reminded me a little bit, that first reveal in the helicopter of when Arnie's head opens up in Total Recall.
Yeah.
And reveals the
2 weeks.
Imagine that in CGI. It would just look ridiculous, wouldn't it? But it's great because it looks physical, doesn't it?
I don't think that's widely regarded as good special effects, to be honest. That's Total Recall.
I love his face explodes on the surface as well.
It is good. But, no, I mean, for me, the CGI is a big disappointment, a big letdown. And if the film had done well enough, I don't know, maybe they could have rectified it with a special cut or something. But I don't think it's big enough for me to write this off as a bad film. I think there's enough good stuff in here.
I think it's a really good film, apart from the CGI.
Yeah.
I like the moments when they explore the spaceship. You were saying we felt that was missed in the previous films. They really go a bit more in depth with. We found a spaceship. This is amazing. Rather than there's a few scraps of it. We'll look at them in a few weeks.
But again, that's another sequence in the film where the effects let it down.
Yeah.
With the little Tetris scene.
Oh wow! The
when
really
they get to the centre of this mothership, where there should be this giant creature which you see behind the scenes footage, and they've overlaid it with a weird, I don't even know what you'd call it.
You're right. It's 3D Tetris box. I think the original idea was to have that as. I mean, this ship does not belong to this creature.
Yeah.
I think it was an alien pilot and an alien species who had that thing creature on board and were going through the same horror that the human characters go through.
In the space jockeys had...
Yeah, the space jockeys and the xenomorphs, yeah. So I think it was exactly the same, and they even shot it and had that creature on set, and it's so blindingly obvious that they just covered it up with whatever they could really quickly.
They didn't like it.
Which is a real shame.
It tested badly.
I think again, the biggest take home from this film, it was a waste of potential.
Yeah.
This could have been a film that could almost stand shoulder to shoulder with the Carpenter one, but was let down by studio interference.
Where the bugbear as well. Filming on location. This was shot in Pinewood, Toronto studios, and you don't have that feeling of cold, do you? It doesn't really kind of...
I
don't think it feels the same way as the second one, the 82.
Well, my favourite thing about this film is that it definitely 100% should have been made, and I'm glad it was, because I think it's kind of got that fan film feel.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a really good film. I could watch it happily as a double.
But the major disappointment, besides the CGI, is the fact that they deleted the suicide scene, because... I mean, when Kurt Russell discovers that body...
time, didn't they?
Yeah.
When he cuts his own throat, cuts his wrists.
I want to know the logistics of how you cut both your wrists and then cut your throat open to the degree that he did.
It's
a big gap.
In the scene, he only, well, from what I saw, he only slits one wrist in the scene.
Oh, okay.
So I can't remember. He might have had both. I think he did have both.
Yeah, I think it was.
But in the refilm scene, it was just one wrist. One. He's only got one neck. One neck. But another reason they deleted it was because the CGI foot looks stupid. So when you watch the deleted scene, you can hear the foot walking around because it's Edvard.
It doesn't seem like they had much quality control with how good and bad the CGI looks. So that foot must have looked really bad.
It must have looked terrible.
Apparently the scene exists on the Blu-ray. Check your Blu-ray. There's a deleted scene. Yeah, he nowhere to go. He takes a razor, slices his wrist, then sits down and slices his own throat. And they said for pacing they took it out, but you kind of need that in a way because it is. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Without dying in between?
I don't think that would have affected the pacing all that much.
Just slash.
It wouldn't have affected the pacing. I think it was a necessary scene because I think it was one of the most striking images from the Norwegian scene from the original film. And I think the director, Smorgasbord or whatever his name was, I think he should have he wanted to focus on Kate, Lloyd and Carter, and he thought the scene took away from them. But for me, I think that scene was integral.
I get the feeling that this director, who's not gone on to do anything since,
music videos,
like I feel like he didn't have much of a say on the final cut.
It feels like studio,
and maybe he was coming up with an excuse.
They recruited a talent, but it wasn't a big name, and it was something that they could just do what they wanted with, which was a real shame. Because I think the film's competently put together.
Yeah.
But like you say, I'm glad it exists, and since it's come out, every time I watch The Thing, I watch it as a double bill with that. And I really enjoy it. And we showed it to you in the order they were released. But I think if you were to watch them again, back to back, because...
You literally see the run.
Yeah, what's really interesting about this film is that it ends with Lars chasing the dog.
You understand this guy's not crazy.
And you understand his purpose. And it just runs straight into the original thing. It's seamless. You can watch it as one film. And it works.
I know.
And it almost... kind of like Rogue One, I think is the nearest thing you can equate it to.
Yeah, Darth Vader.
It adds. It's a world building that it makes the stakes much higher. And when you watch the Carpenter one now, you realise what's happened and you feel for what's happened at Norwegian base. You're not disconnected from it anymore.
When you watch that, see the axe and the door and things, you know what led to that moment, don't you?
I mean, Joel Edgerton, can I just say as well, one of the most underutilised actors today. I absolutely adore him. I think he's brilliant.
And he is good, isn't he, Joel Edgerton?
He's in the film with that old guy. Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Christopher Lee.
Yeah. Sorry, just so I'm not the one who sounds ignorant here.
That's an embarrassing moment for Lee.
Alex was trying to talk about a film called Horror Express, which was another adaptation of Who Goes There. I think it was a very loose adaptation. And as he was describing it to us earlier, he said it had the old guy from Attack of the Clones in, which turns out is Dracula. Christopher Lee.
Legendary
actor Christopher Lee, who's now most famous for his Attack of the Clones film. But Joel Edgerton was in that, wasn't he?
I think the American characters give a good contrast to the Norwegian guys on the base.
Yeah,
just a slightly different take on the environment and what's going on.
I don't know about you guys, but I know I've come off like a really intense thing, like watching 3 films. A thing.
Something you've not told
us.
A thing.
What would you guys think about a thing where like a sequel to The Thing, because now that they can de-age people all of a sudden, like in Captain Marvel.
I was literally just about to say the main takeaway from this conversation we've just had, and about how seamlessly you can watch the prequel followed by the 82 thing. I think as opposed to a sequel, there's more scope to what you guys were talking about earlier. Another prequel on the alien ship with the aliens, dealing with
That's
this.
even better.
And we know what? Get Kurt Russell in it. Bring him back. He could play an alien. Just paint him blue.
You know, watching all the things this week, it made me think about the future of the thing, the future of the franchise. There's no way they're not going to touch this again.
They need to.
No.
Like, for me, I started imagining, because they made a Thing video game in 2002, which was a sequel to the original film.
People
and it was about
the base.
it was about the crew that went in after to see what happened.
Well, you're not going to leave
it.
these people dead, are you? If there's been a and they sent some emergency signals. So.
I just think it would be amazing to have a scene that opens where you see, you know, the body of Kurt Russell, but McCready, the body of Childs,
or one of the bodies there, and some footsteps going off.
Well, exactly, that body's taken away, but they don't realise that that creature is the Thing, and that could be something really fantastic. Have it in a confined space again. Have it on like a ship. They've come to collect the crew, taken everything back,
80s
and they have this. They have Kurt Russell's body, and you obviously, just have a really well-made sort of 82 version of Kurt Russell, and then have that just start to fall to pieces, and have a self-contained story on some kind of ship or maybe not submarine. They did that. There was a film called Leviathan with Peter Weller, and I think it's Ernie Hudson. It might be Ernie Hudson.
Nice.
Can't be Ernie Hudson.
It's based. I think the premise is the Thing on a submarine. It's terrible. Don't watch it. It's awful. Yeah. So, future of the Thing. Excited.
One thing I'd step in. I know you kind of disagree, Nick. I would love to take it back to 1938 and do a proper period piece in the 30s with kind of McCready wearing his orange slicker. Take it back to that.
I think that would be tough to do now.
I think Kurt Russell is McCready. I don't want to see anyone else.
But old Kurt Russell could be McCready in 1938. You could take it again.
I'm not against doing The Thing in any format. Like, I feel like I'm on a roll with watching The Thing. So I feel like I could watch anything in any sort of time period. Or
have you seen The Addams Family? There's a thing in that.
I'm going to watch The Addams Family after this and watch The Thing.
So what about the recommendation for the 2011 thing then? So do we all think that we should watch it?
I think it's a watch. I don't think it's... I'd never argue masterpiece, but...
If we were to rank
all
the things from all the films, where would we put them? So...
I think right at the tip top for me is 82. Anyone?
82,
Yeah,
I agree. John Carpenter, number 1.
Unquestionable.
Only very slightly below that, the 50.
Yeah,
51.
Yeah, I agree. I think the second one you should check out, if you're only going to check out another one, I'd say Howard Hawks.
I don't know. So 51's better than 2011.
Yeah.
But if you've got a gun to your head for some reason, and you can only watch 2 Thing films, you've got to watch 82 and 2011, I think. Even though 51's...
I think they work better as a double.
I think they work as a double.
Yeah. But if I had to choose, I'd still watch 51 over 2011.
Yeah.
I think it's the better film.
It's definitely the better film, but just I think there's a lot to enjoy about watching.
The 82 Thing is a gourmet burger, and then the 2011 one is just a really nice side of fries, isn't it?
Yeah, but with some shit.
You don't need
sauce.
You got maybe it's a chocolate shake you're having with it kind of thing to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like it's
So is it a comprehensive 4 HYESs out of 4 HYESs?
We've done some good films.
I know we are doing good. Big Bus kicked it off.
Yeah.
Poor Ghostbusters too.
So just to sum up, Alex, for all 3 films, would you recommend all 3 of them?
I would give them 3 things out of 3 things.
Luke?
Check them out. Go watch them now.
Sam?
I would say HYES.
It's unanimous. That is 4 HYESs out of 4 HYESs for all 3 versions of the thing.
The year 3009.
Full contact karate.
It's her he's after.
So, it's grown tentacles, extra mouths, dog heads, but underneath it all, we can still recognise it as the HYES spinner. Can you see?
I can see a few ears.
I had to push it in with the car today. It's getting too big.
Yeah, don't touch that bit. It's sharp. So, we're going to spin again, see who's next. Rob, good choice. I hope it's you again. I hope it's something good.
Fingers crossed.
Like, we don't want another big bust, so I don't want to say I don't want this to be Alex, but I really don't want this to be Alex.
Come on, be Alex, be Alex.
So here we go. Rob, give it a spin.
That was a big spin.
And it's Sam.
Oh!
Sam's only just come off.
And now he's
A
getting back
controversial
on.
choice with Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
I can't really follow Power of the Duck. I mean, I can't make a film as good as that.
That's a tough one.
Follow this, but all I'll say is there can be only one. It's The Highlander.
Nice.
Oh, snap.
They say there can be only one, but there's like 7 sequels.
Okay,
And
a
a game,
series.
and a series.
And a cartoon.
I don't know if I should do a Robin and do all of them, but
I don't think I can sit through
we'll
all
focus on one. And do
As much
another one.
Highlander as we can handle. I love it.
From another time comes a man of great power.
You talk funny, Nash. Where are you from?
Lots of different places. A warrior of incredible strength.
You've the devil in you.
We've been kinsmen 20 years.
Connor MacLeod was my kinsman. I don't know who you are.
Highlander. There can be only one.
Yeah, I think Highlander's going to be really good. What do you guys think?
Highlander will be good.
Yeah, very funny guys. Like, what's
So, guys, it's time for our weekly quiz.
Yay!
Just to make it a little easier on you, I've decided to focus purely on the John Carpenter 1982 film, just to narrow it down a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, you all ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
So, which other film, released prior to The Thing in 1982, also about an extraterrestrial life form, did Carpenter attribute as the reason that The Thing was a box office failure? Start off nice and easy. Alex has E.T. motherfucker. That is 100% right. Sam, E.T. And Luke, E.T. That's
Keep your answers on screen, Luke, so you know what you actually got.
that's right all round.
What?
Luke,
Delete your
keep a
answers.
track of the
Oh,
scores.
yeah.
Sam.
Yeah, you know what? I never listen. What's E.T. short for?
Ernie Timpson?
No.
Ernie Hudson.
He's got little legs.
Go on. Okay, number 2. Who wrote the amazing but Razzie-nominated score for The Thing?
Oh no, I smashed this.
How do you spell Parker Jr.?
I actually thought this was quite difficult until I came back just now to look at it, and it's actually quite simple.
When you're stranded on a base.
Alex, Burt Reynolds. Sam, Ennio Morricone.
Luke, I knew
Ennio Morricone. It's not Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds was second choice.
I just had complete we've been talking
Just
about
give
it
it a
all.
kazoo.
It is Ennio Morricone.
Nailed it.
A lot of these questions we have actually covered in the discussion.
I know.
Which makeup and special effects icon worked on The Thing in a completely uncredited role?
Oh man, loving this quiz, Rob.
Mind blank. Shit.
I'll come to Alex last. Stan Winston.
I knew it was Stan Winston.
And old guy from episode 2. Okay, Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
It is Stan Winston. So, how long did it take Kurt Russell to grow out his Macready rough and ready hair and beard?
Oh man.
In
If
the
it were
build-up
me,
to The Thing.
if it were me, it would take 7 years minimum.
The guy is just pure testosterone. I'm
He
thinking
is
like
pure
8 hours. It's it's not going to be long. I'm going to say... Hang on. Okay.
Got my answer.
You all ready? Alex, 3 minutes. Close, but you're a
He
little
just
bit
looked
off.
in the mirror and went,
Sam, 2 months. Luke, 4 months. I was quite surprised by the answer. It was actually a little under a year.
Really?
Oh.
So maybe he doesn't have quite as much testosterone as we thought.
Oh man.
Maybe he is the Thing.
And finally, and probably the most difficult one, The Thing is the first film in what John Carpenter calls his Apocalypse trilogy. What are the other 2 films in this trilogy?
I'm gonna just have to say it out loud. I
No,
don't
hang on.
type it. Is it? It's a song Precinct 13, which was before, I think,
Okay.
and then another Scream.
You know, I can't think of
Not
it.
quite. Wes Craven wouldn't like it.
I think Luke would take me in. I can only think of Escape from New York.
I was thinking that, but then you'd have to have the Escape from LA.
I've gone for Prince of Darkness and Method of Badness.
That is exactly right.
Boom, boom, boom!
Shit.
Yeah!
I've not seen Math. I've heard it's amazing.
It's weird. But yeah.
Do you know Wes Craven had a cameo in Scream? As Freddy Krueger, janitor.
It was the janitor.
Yeah.
And
You know this is about John Carpenter.
Yeah, I know.
So what are the scores on
Alex
the
has just
doors?
given us film nugs.
Right.
I'm on 3.
I'm on 4, and I kept my
1 for
score this
Alex,
week.
3 for Sam.
Luke
Is the winner with 4 this week.
Boom.
Well done. And just like that, we've reached the end of yet another fun-filled episode of our Have You Ever Seen podcast. And just like McCready, I feel like we've really been put through the ringer on this one. With all our fillings just about intact and having survived all the blood tests, we look forward to doing it all over again next time. If we all make it, that is. Because I'm still pretty sure that someone in this room ain't what he appears to be. Until next time, watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies.